Hi friends, and welcome back. Today our spring cleaning spree continues, and today I want to do a major declutter and organization of our pantry. And oh my goodness, our pantry right now just desperately needs this. Any semblance of organization in here is just completely gone. I mean, look at this. So today I am really on a mission to transform this space. I want to declutter all the excess, get rid of the food that's expired that we don't need or that could be stored far more efficiently. I think there's a lot of that. And then also I want to reorganize this space as well, because I think that there's some things about the way that I've structured our pantry, the way that I've placed things, that really just isn't working for us. My strategy and how I want to approach this is I really think that we just need a completely fresh slate. So let's go ahead and begin with just taking everything out of the pantry and giving it a good wipe down. And even though taking everything out like this does involve a bit more effort, I always find that with projects like this, it's worth it. Not only does it really allow you to deep clean your space, in this case my pantry, something I don't often do, but it also makes decluttering and reorganizing so much easier. Because at a glance, you can just see what you have, what isn't working about your current system, and what you can change. Okay, so we've got everything out of the pantry, and now what I want to do is to give this thing a good deep cleaning. I'm going to take a magic eraser to the walls to remove some of the scuffs. We're going to wipe down all of the shelves. Then there are also a couple of spills that have made their way to the floor that I want to tidy up as well. I've got to say, I don't love this builder grade shelving we have, but the one nice thing about it being a wire rack instead of a solid one is that everything just falls to the floor. So once we clean this up, it should be looking a lot better in here. One day I would love to replace the shelving in here, do something a bit more custom, but for now I'm trying to look on the bright side, and it does make the mess a bit easier to clean up. This part is just so satisfying. Look at how easily that comes off. Well, this pantry just looks so much better. Feels like we just moved in. The floor is now completely clean and clear. I think this is probably the best that it's looked in well over a year. Honestly, maybe a couple of years. The shelves are looking bright, fresh, and new. So now let's turn our attention to all of our food, and we have a lot to go through. I've just got all of our food piled up on the counter here. So I think what I want to do is sort it by kind. Then we can go through and start decluttering. There are a few specific things that I want to be on the lookout for here. Number one is just anything that's expired. I also want to keep an eye out for foods that we might have had for a long time that aren't expired, but that we don't plan to eat. Sometimes I'll buy foods, thinking that we'll use them, and then we just never end up actually eating them. So I want to keep an eye out for those, and then also for anything that we might be able to condense, because often we'll go out and buy a duplicate of something that we already had. And often we can save a lot of space in our pantries just by condensing them. So keep an eye out for all of those categories, but now let's start tackling this mess. Look at how gross this is. Oh, yeah, don't love that. So So essentially what I was trying to do here was just to sort everything into subcategories. The state our pantry was in was such that everything had gotten scattered everywhere. So I had cooking supplies in with my snacks, spices with my protein powders. It's really hard when everything is all jumbled up like that to really evaluate if you may have duplicates of some foods or how best to organize and store various types of items. So especially when you have just a ton of items like this is a practice that I find really helpful. It's almost like a prep stage before the actual decluttering and organizing begins, but it really makes the future steps a whole lot smoother. Okay, so I realize it might not look like it, but our food is now so much more organized. I've got everything grouped together by kinds. I've got all of our baking supplies in one area, sweets in another, breakfast items in a spot. Then I've also set aside all of the obvious foods that I'm wanting to declutter in a little corner of the island as well. And these are all foods that I know have gone bad. They've got all of this mold in them, or I know that they've been open for months and are pretty much stale at this point. So I just put those off to the side and we can throw them out. But now what I want to do is a bit of a deeper dive. I want to check the individual labels on all of our foods, make sure it's things that we're actually going to eat, and if not, I can go ahead and give those away while the food is still good. Then there's also several containers that I want to reorganize and restructure to better fit how we practically use our pantry. So for example, right now I have these 2 baskets for our cooking and baking supplies. I think it's just going to be a lot more practical if we dedicate this one for cooking and this one for baking. That way the supplies aren't mixed and it will be easier to just find exactly what I'm looking for. I'm thinking let's start with the baking supplies and we can just work our way around the island. So I just started with our 2 baking and cooking supplies bins, moving all of the cooking supplies to the left bin, the baking supplies to the right bin. Was really happy with this change. Then after that, I decided to clear a bit of space on the counter, so I just moved all of the items that I was going to be decluttering to that corner so that I could make a bit of space for some of the items that I wanted to refill. I noticed that I had a number of duplicate items as well as some products that I had a bit of backstock left of and space in the container. So I just decided to use this as a great opportunity just to refill any containers that could use a bit of a top off, and I figured that would be a great way just to be able to eliminate just a bit of excess packaging. But then with everything refilled, I got onto the actual decluttering bit, trying to go item by item and check the expiration dates of everything, just figure out if there were any random items that we didn't need. I definitely noticed that there were a handful of just items that had settled to the bottom of the baskets, things that we obviously had no interest in eating and had just forgotten about, so I really tried to clear out the baskets in as much as possible. And then I reorganized them too, switching around categories and groupings to better fit our habits and inventory. Well, it is now a good bit later, but everything is looking so much better. I can't wait to put it all back in our pantry and see what it looks like. I want to give you a quick tour of everything that we've done so far. First off, I just decided to move everything that we're decluttering to this corner here. So this is things that are expired, that are stale. It's empty packaging from things that we were able to condense, as well as just food items that either we tried and didn't like or just that I don't foresee us using, some of which we've actually had in our pantry for literally years. So there's a good amount of stuff here, and you really feel the difference when you're looking at the food that we have left. Just there's so much less. So very happy with our progress there, and obviously we'll do our best to dispose of the items we've decided to let go of in the best way possible. So I'll recycle all the packaging that I can, throwing out only what we're unable to recycle. The same thing goes for the food. I'll try to gift or donate any items that we're able to, and then only throw out the food that's gone bad or stale or rancid. But now, before we put the food back in the pantry, let me show you kind of how I've decided to organize and group all of our food items together. Okay, and let's start with this bin here. We can make our way around the counter. In this first one, we have all of our crackers, baking mixes, kind of the grains that we reach for semi-regularly. Then in this one here, we have all of our backstock of baking and cooking supplies, the things that don't fit into the bins that we have out already or we have duplicates of. We've got our spices here. I have all of my vitamins and supplements in this little container here, as well as just a few items at the back that we just don't reach for that regularly and that we didn't really have a good space for anywhere else. We've got all of the baking basics here, baking and cooking supplies. I think we did cooking supplies in this one and baking supplies in this one. So that worked out really well. And then in these little Lazy Susans, we have some snack and just baking essentials. Same thing with these two. We've got rice and oats. That hasn't changed. And then I just decided to keep a few of our breakfast essentials loose. Same thing goes for protein powders, collagen powder, all of that. And then in these two containers right here, I have one for all of my snack food and just kind of daily essentials, one for Christopher's. We have things like his protein bars here, as well as some candy, and we have fairly different preferences in that department, so I just thought it made sense for us to have each a separate container. Then this one is new. We have a lot of nuts and seeds, both in our regular stock of what we have, as well as we just eat them quite frequently. So I decided to just put all of that together in one basket so that it would be really easy. When we're looking for sunflower seeds or pistachios or what are these figs, we can just go here and know that if it's a dried fruit or if it's a nut or seed, you'll be able to find it here. And then last bin, this is kind of the things that didn't really fit anywhere else. If I'm being completely honest, I have a bunch of ramen, which I guess I just need to eat up. And then we have almond butter, peanut butter, tuna, and some open chips. These are things that, again, we kind of reach for semi-regularly, not on a daily basis, and I just wanted to have a way of being able to contain those things that don't really have a strong theme. I guess lunch is the theme. Yeah, it totally is lunch. So I guess this is the semi-frequently reached for lunch bin, which sounds a bit complicated, but I think is going to work. Then we just have a couple of open bags of chips. Okay, but now comes the fun part. It's time to decide where we want everything to go in the pantry. I'm thinking I want to switch things around a bit from the way that we'd had everything organized before. Previously, I'd had all of our baking supplies and other cooking ingredients on the lower shelves where things are easiest to see and to reach. And the problem with that is that most often we're probably reaching for snack food and cooking supplies rather than, the baking essentials like flour, sugar, all of that. So what I want to do right now is to kind of flip that organization system upside down. I want to move all of our snacks and the things that we're reaching for most frequently to those bottom couple of shelves. That way we'll be able to see it and easily access it. And then we'll put our baking supplies, the things that we reach for a bit less frequently, on those upper shelves so that we can get to them when we need them, but they aren't getting in the way. I really think that's just going to make this whole space so much more practical and functional. So let's start implementing that system right now, put things back into the pantry. Guys, I am kind of blown away right now. We didn't spend a single penny on this project, just did some old-fashioned decluttering and organizing using the things that we already had on hand, but it feels like I have a completely different pantry. I want to give you all a complete tour of this space, but as a quick reminder, this is what our pantry looked like before. And this is what it looks like now. Okay, so starting at the top, we just put all of the protein powders where they'd be easily accessible on that top shelf. Then I put just a little bit of backstock, a couple of unopened chip bags in the corner right here. Then on the second shelf, I use this mostly for baking supplies. So I have all of my mason jars, the Lazy Susans there, rice, oats back there. And then I also put my vitamins and a few baking essentials on this little turntable here. We actually have lunch supplies right here, which I figured would be a good place for it because you can still see some of what's inside, but not all of it. I'm also pretty short, so Christopher will be able to see that a lot better than I can too. And then on this shelf, we put all of our kind of baking and cooking supplies. So things like oils, vinegars, all of that in this one, baking supplies in this one, our spices are all here, then a few just kind of the basics and essentials, sugar, flour, all of that. Then down here, we put the breakfast supplies here, our snacks, the nuts and seeds, and I really love how you can just easily see at a glance everything that's inside. I think it's going to be a lot easier for us to be able to actually see what we have snack-wise and eat it this way. So I'm really excited about this. Before, these two were up on this shelf here, so being shorter, it was a lot harder for me to see it, and I think Christopher's was originally in a bigger basket too. That was just kind of an inefficient use of space, so really big fan of this particular change that we made. And then down here, I put all of our backstock of baking supplies, again, somewhere where we could easily see what we have. And then I also put all of our crackers, baking mixes down there. I had considered putting these on the top shelf right here, but I figured we wouldn't really be able to see them that way. So I think that this will be a really good compromise where, now we do have two baskets on the ground, which isn't ideal, but at least we can see everything. I think down the road it would be awesome just to add in an extra shelf here. I think that, we could definitely have space for that, and it would just be a lot easier to fit everything well here. So I have made a little note to ask Christopher about adding an extra shelf when we finally get around to redoing the pantry. That is going to be a ways down the road though, because there are other home projects that are closer to the top of my list. For now though, I'm just thrilled with how this little mini project came out. The space already feels so much more intuitive to me. I love how we've been able to make our most frequently used items the most accessible, how we've been able to kind of rearrange some of the item groupings that we had to make better logical sense and practical sense for us. I really feel like this space is just going to be one that we're able to maintain so much better than the previous setup, which obviously we were failing at maintaining, because we've really put the time and the effort in to thinking through what's going to work best for us. But right now, I need to get to taking care of and sorting through this mess behind me. I really hope that you enjoyed coming along with me today as we decluttered and organized my pantry. My hope is that this gives you some inspiration and motivation to transform your pantry, your fridge, your freezer, or any other areas of your life that are just feeling a bit messy and overwhelming right now. It really is amazing just how much of a difference a few hours of effort and attention can make. You don't need to go out and buy anything new. You can use the organization tools, bins, and boxes that you already have in your own home. But just by spending some time reorganizing, reconfiguring, going through and decluttering what you don't need, you really can just turn your space from messy to minimal. So I really hope that this has given you the inspiration that you need to get out there and do it. And if it has, or if you're planning to declutter, to organize one area of your life in the next week or two, I would love to know what that is or what you've done. So be sure to let me know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, friends, I am wishing you all an incredible day. Happy decluttering. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.